and welcome to Stampscaping 101. I have taken a 4¼ by 5½ piece of Recollections jewel-toned, I don't know what you'd call this, purplish blue foil, and I've applied a center application of Brilliance white ink in the center here, okay? And I've kind of transitioned it out. Every time I re-inked my cotton ball here, I've applied it in the center, and then as I apply it, it gets drier and drier on here, and then I've applied it kind of on the perimeter like this with those drier applications. So you're kind of going for this transitioning value scale of very light in the middle and then darker on the outside edge. It's rough, you know, I get blobs and things like that, but on this type of thing, it's not going to matter, though, okay? In theory, that's my mindset, at least. Okay, now we're going to try some reverse impressions on this foil. I know how it works on the much smoother type of very chrome-like metallics like this, okay? These Recollections ones are a little bit textured. Let me see if I can show you. Can you? Yeah. See that texture on that paper right there? This is a very thin foil, okay? So, I'm going to try some reverse impressions on here. I don't expect it to be as clean a removal of this ink as I get on something like this. That's really smooth and, you know, sealed off, but maybe we can use that to our advantage, okay? All right, I'm using the Spruce Large here, or just Spruce Tree. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I didn't get a real clean removal. You can see how dark the foil is out there, but that's not bad, okay? It's kind of what I expected. There might be a way to, you know, get a much cleaner, you know, removal. I don't know. But every time I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean off my stamp to go for another reverse impression, okay? Because if I go like that and then do it over here, you know, there's still paint or ink on it, so I would think it won't remove as much as what I want, okay? So I'll go like this. I'll do it at a little bit of a different height. We'll put it a little bit higher. And you can overlap your first tree too if you want to. All right. Clean. Maybe go overlap a touch more. About like so. Different height again. Oh, it's interesting. I got a different impression here. It looks like if I go over it again, maybe I remove even more ink. I don't know. Then again, it's a little bit different out there. I don't know. What can I say? It might look different with each impression you get. Okay, and I'll come over here. Let's go real high. Like about like that. Okay. Just shows a little bit. Now remember, I didn't put any white ink down here, so it just shows just like that. Okay. So with each reverse impression, I don't know, it looks different, you know, with each one, doesn't it? Okay, now, I could go for white impressions in here, but I'm thinking about going with black here, okay? And then maybe I'll go with, I don't know. Let's just see how this works out here. One thing, the good thing about this is if you start doing something like this and you don't like what you see, you can just wipe this right off and that foil's ready to go. Because these Brilliance inks, while they dry on here, they don't dry instantly, okay? Okay, that being said, if I heat set this now, you know, I won't be able to remove it, but... Okay, now let's go with a thinner, kind of more bony type of pine tree here. This is just called pine. Okay. It's because if I go with another, like a darker spruce, I think it would look okay, but this one's, you know, might kind of merge a little bit easier on here, you know, without covering up the imagery in the back. Plus, you know, when you go out in nature, you see all kinds of different different types of pines, in harmony with each other, especially in those transition zones in terms of, the elevation, of a given area. Okay, there's the black. That looks really good, doesn't it? See, now that's where, you're taking advantage of the fact that the ink didn't come off cleanly because that black wouldn't show up against this darker purple as much. So I wouldn't have minded if I got a real clean, reverse impression. But if you don't, then you just take advantage of that, okay? By being able to do some other things in here, okay? All right. Now you see how this black looks against that in the background. And see, you go with these kind of thinner, more spindly types of imagery in here, and you can still see what's going on in the background. So it's kind of going thick to thinner in front, okay? That's generally kind of what I like to do with my images, okay? All right, so we have that. Now, I haven't done this before, folks, so I don't know what's going to happen. So what's going on in my mind is I'm wondering, as I was doing those ones in black, I have this other image. Now, I mean, we can just do these in black like that and be done with it, you can have a quote up here or something like this, and we can finish things off the way we're going to, but I'm thinking about putting another one of these right in here in white. Will it show up, though? I don't know, because I'm stamping kind of white into white up here. And that's a pretty decent amount of white right there. I don't think I want to do it in black, so it would be kind of like going white, and then reverse impressions, which are dark, and then darker right here, and then going back to white here in the foreground, so you can say white's in the background visually and in the foreground. I think I'm going to try that. Might as well. That's kind of the thing that kind of came to mind. But we're going to have to heat set this now, okay? I think if I want to get a really good, clean white impression in there, I think I'm going to have to heat set this. Okay, and I don't need to heat set everything. I'm mainly going for this white in here because that's what I'm going to be stamping that imagery right in that space. Okay. I don't know if it's completely dry, but I would think it would be enough. Okay. All right, now this is where the Brilliance inks come into play. These inks have really opened up the doorways to a lot of different techniques: stamping ink over ink on unconventional stamping surfaces. It just allows us to do a lot of different things here. Going with this white one on here, one of the things that you could do is you could use Brilliance inks like that, and then you can stamp a white image or a silver one over the top of this and emboss that. That might be kind of interesting, because you heat set this so the embossing powder won't stick to these pigment inks, but it'll stick to the wet one. That would be kind of interesting. Okay, so I'm counter bending this. This is really wanting to bend after that heat setting. I have no idea what makes these things foil. I know it's it's metal of some sort, but I don't know if there's some kind of plastic coating over the top of it. I would assume it would be some sort of spray in the printing process that would do that, or the foiling process. Okay, so we're going with this white here. I'll go about that. I don't know if it's going to show up, but we'll see. If it doesn't, then embossing would have been a good way to go. be kind of interesting to stamp in white and do like a glitter embossing powder, you know, to have this tree kind of in a glitter or kind of an iridescent type of color. I think it would go well with this gold foil. Okay, so use pretty good pressure, but not, I don't know, maybe I press too hard. Don't use too much pressure, otherwise the ink won't transfer well. It'll kind of squeeze out from underneath your stamp, and you'll get kind of a, you know, this reverse impression kind of with ink on the perimeter because you're squeezing out all the ink out from under. Remember, these aren't porous surfaces, so it's not like the ink is absorbing right directly into the card's surface. Okay, now that isn't too bad. Right in here it doesn't show up very well, but we can take care of that though with some additional tones added in with a white paint pen. Okay, so I'm reasonably pleased with that, okay? Alright, so that looks a little bit unbalanced though, so let me re-ink about half of the tree. And then let's come down here and go for another one over here. Again, at a different height, so we change heights all the time. So this is just using, I don't know, top, what? 2/5 maybe of the image, maybe? I don't know, something like that. Okay, holding down. Now this is your technique of using pigment inks on foils. Okay, see, I'm allowing this ink to transfer a little bit more, and like I said, the Brilliance inks kind of start to set up a little bit. Like I said, that will just wipe off, but it's setting up a little bit more so than if we just laid it down and then pulled it up immediately. All that ink might kind of vacuum off, you know, in a vacuum type of format and stay on your stamp, okay? It's like stamping oil-based, you know, inks on like aluminum foil or glass or something like that. So you have to kind of allow it to transfer. Okay, so that is that. Let's take a look and see what we have here. Okay, I think that's kind of interesting. You see how much more it really shows up over here because it's stamped over a darker area than over here. Okay. There's quite a bit of depth in there. So you go with like a dark, light, dark, light. You know what I mean? You oscillate the values there, so you know that white is in the background, right? And then we have darker trees, darker, or lighter, you know, or you know, lighter than this, darker, darkest, light again. So you know what I mean? You can play contrasts like that against one another, and you can have the layers read, and that's how you create visual depth. Kind of tempted to go with another. I think that's enough of those trees there, though. I'm gonna go with a smaller version of it, but. Okay, that's bothering me. I think I want to go with a smaller version of that tree. It's, from a compositional standpoint, have you heard about that concept of arranging things in odd numbers? Well, that's what I'm going to do here. Okay, I need to find my smaller leafless... Oh, I got it right here. My smaller leafless limbs. Stamp. Here it is right here. Okay. Yeah, like things like your dominant things right here, your your white trees in the composition, and seeing these two right here, just it's a little bit off, so you kind of group things in odd numbers. Now, the dark, the black pine trees aren't, they were the things that were showing up to our eye first. And if I was just going to end with those, I would probably do another one down here, so there'd be 5. But they weren't. They were going to be, back a ways visually. So, okay, so I'll go in with this one right over here. Kind of do things a little bit off-center. I get to go over here, but that might look kind of weird. So I'm going to go off-center about this a little bit. It's like using the rule of thirds or something like that. This one's secondary, but... okay, that one looks pretty good. So, visually, it's a little bit more balanced out, I think. Okay, so here's the rule of thirds. Like I said, that's like 1/3, and that's where that tree is, right? Okay, 1, 2, 3. That's almost perfect, right? Okay. Um, Deciding what to do. Okay, let's heat set this. All right. Now, I have some paint pens here in violets. I don't know if I'm going to use those or not. Maybe. But definitely the white, okay? Really shake up your paint pens before you use them so that it gets them nice and opaque. Okay. All right, now this is an acrylic paint pen. And these pens are kind of, I don't know, they're marketed as being able to draw on just about anything. Glass, they even have like, this is like skin, some right? Yeah, skin, paper, glass, cloth, metal, and plastic. All right. Why the skin is there, I don't know. Who's going to draw, their skin with an acrylic paint, Okay, so I am adding this on some of those, especially this largest tree's branches, okay? I'm doing it on the top surface. I like to go right in that area between where that branch connects with the main trunk, okay? Sometimes I'll become, the branch in front of the tree makes it seem a little bit more three-dimensional, like that. Okay. Now this is where the tree gets lost a little bit, so I'm just kind of establishing it a little bit more in terms of an image that's in the foreground, because it's kind of see-through right now. So I'm just kind of drawing it in. And, okay. So there's that tree. It's standing out a little bit more. Okay. Let's put a little bit of this going right up the edge, right up the side. I'll do it on one side, I won't do it on both sides, okay? Okay, now let's do the same thing on this white tree. Let's bring it out from the background a touch more. Sometimes there's snow on, bark, side of trees too. You can do this type of thing. Sometimes as you start, drawing on this pigmenting, it starts going into the tip here, so just do a little bit of scribble to get it flowing again. Okay. Yeah, let's follow suit with this little one down here. Maybe I'll use less highlights because it's a little bit more delicate. But, has a similar texture that kind of gives it, relates to that. Looks like a family of, trees right here. 1, 2, 3. That. Okay. All right. I think that looks fairly interesting. I think this would look kind of neat with a little bit of snow effects. So let's take some of the Dr. Martens Bleed Proof White. And I think I added way too much water at one point in time to this. because I usually have to add water every time, but I haven't had to do that for a while. So let me mix in a little bit more of the paint. What Dr. Martin Bleed Proof White is a very, very, very opaque white watercolor paint. Okay, even the smallest of little dots will be a very opaque little dot. You can use other types of media. This one's just the easiest to use, in my opinion. Some people have used, like correctional pens, or they'll kind of hit it, where it kind of splashes out, and that works pretty good too. It's kind of the same concept, in terms of a correctional pen, having that kind of chalky type of, ability to cover up opacity. Okay, now I just put a little bit in the tip of this toothbrush. I don't fill it up, okay, because I'm not using that much. I'm just using a little bit. And then I try to squeeze out a lot of the paint in that brush again, okay? Because I don't want to get like big blobs or anything of this on my card. Okay, so 6 inches maybe or so. I'm going to do this over the whole thing. If you do it in the sky, it tends to look like stars. If you do it over the whole thing, where you get some splashing kind of occurring, splash paint, splatter painted over your imagery, it tends to read more as like snow. Okay, I'm getting a real fine mist of this paint here. Sometimes I get kind of a little bit more variety, which I want. And since I didn't get it in this splatter painting, maybe it needs to be thinner, I'm not sure. Or maybe thicker, maybe thicker, I don't know. I'll add it in with my white paint pen, okay? So you can see that. Is the texture over everything? See that down there? Makes those darker areas a lot more interesting, doesn't it? All right. So let's do this. We'll take our white paint pen again. It's interesting that white paint over these areas right here, it almost looks like violet. I don't know why. See, it doesn't have a pinkish tinge to it. I don't know why it's reading that. It might be reflecting, I don't know, the colors of the foil or something like that. Foils are very reflective, of course. Okay. All right, now I'm just adding these in. Some of these could represent stars, but then where I do it over the front of these objects, of course, then it's not a star, it's snowfall. You can have some snowfall and stars. Be perfect for a winter scene. Now I'm doing this as a purple tinged Christmas card. You don't see that too often, but that type of imagery that we do here, it can be representative of a, type of holiday Christmas card type of thing here, right? So we're adding that down like that, okay? Some are textural, isn't it? And it kind of unifies everything with this common kind of texture coming down like that. I'm going to group some of these. Some of these are everything's kind of spaced too evenly, so I'm going to cluster and bring some of these together a little bit. I need to put some more in front of my imagery, like on some of my branches or something like that. Okay, let's go with a North Star in here. Let's go with it about right here. I have some dots around it that will get in the way. Let me just scratch that off. Like so. Okay, you can just take it right off. And we'll make this little dot right here into our North Star. Okay, so I go this way. A little arm. Okay, it's like doing a little check. I'll come this way. Okay, sometimes I don't get it in one. I'll try it in two then. Okay. Sometimes you don't get it at all. It's like, oh man, I messed up. Then just wipe it off and try again. No, I'd be removing some of my um, white in the background, but I mean that this one's a really bad one here. I'm kind of having to do it at a distance a little bit because I don't want to put my hand in this. I need to put a piece of paper here. This will make it easier. So you go like this, so you're not, I can put my hand over the top of that, and I can get kind of right where I need to be. Again, I make these secondary little check marks a lot more shorter. Okay, so those first ones, that first crosshair type of thing, they're longer, and then the secondary ones are shorter. All right, so we have that. Now that's standing out a little bit too much. I don't like that. So we'll do this little bit of pigmenting fogging over the top of it, but we'll allow that to set and dry. All right, now I have these little purple amethyst little crystals here. And we have some nice clear ones, nice shimmery ones. Okay, so let's use some of those in here. I'm kind of deciding, I was going to use it just as stars, but I don't know, I might have it over the whole thing, like the whole thing is just kind of crystalline and twinkly. We'll see how it goes here. Okay, so I'm going to squeeze out a nice big dollop of glue. Oh. My paint is so, my glue is so thick. Okay, I'm putting out a little string of it like that to use. And here's my glue applicator. All right. Too much. Too little. Okay. Okay. This is like the hardest part of this whole card. Applying the glue without it getting all globby. Now, needless to say, I need a new glue. It's like mozzarella cheese. It's like giving me this big stringy kind of application. Let me twirl this like this, like a twirling pasta or something like that. Spaghetti noodles. Okay, yeah, that works pretty good. Twirling. Yeah. Okay. I wanna space some of this out. Like I said, just like with those dots, a little bit less. Oh, I don't know, evenly. So there's like two prinkles right there. Can you see those? Yeah, there's those glue dots right there. All right. This being said, you can use something like, stickles or something like that instead of doing these crystals. You can just have inherently, the glue itself is the sparkly element. That'd be really fast to do too. But I do like the look of those crystals on here. They're really quite fun to employ on our pieces. I need a little bit more glue here. I decided to not put them on the trees, but I'm putting them in some of these little spaces between the trees. Quite close to them. So there's a pretty good coverage of all these little crystals everywhere. Or there will be. Alright, that glue was totally sloppy in terms of an application. Okay, let me show you where all these little glue dots are. There you go. See them all right there? And even down, towards the bottom areas. Alright, now which ones to make? Purple, amethyst, whatever. Which ones to do in clear. The clear ones show up much more. These ones will be much more subtle. The amethyst. Since the amethysts are dark, going dark against dark, maybe I'll go with a little bit of a larger one in amethyst. Alright, now these are flat back crystals, okay. So they're, pretty easy to apply. Okay, those are... Let's go for a couple smaller ones, too. Just for variation. Sometimes when you're applying it, you have to kind of roll the your gem jewel picker, if that's what you're using. These little ones are really tiny. Jewel pickers come in handy for that. Okay, in this real light area, I don't think I'm going to use my purple, because it'll be like a dark little sparkle on light. Okay, I want it like light on light. Okay, so that is the amethyst. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, I think. See? They barely show up. You can kind of see them when they're catching the light. Okay, it's a little more subtle than should be, the clear ones. The clear ones are much more like a diamond or something. I'm going to do another cave scene coming up pretty soon, and I want to do like a diamond mine. These ones are really shining. See that? It's right here and right here. These little crystals come in these nice multi-packs. I must really like this size right here, which is a 3? I don't know if that coincides with the right size because it's just numbered 1 through 12, and I don't think there's 12 sizes. I think there's 6 sizes, and there's just, you know, two things of each size. You know, two containers of 6 different sizes. I think. I'm not absolutely sure, but I think that's the way this is kind of done. And let's go for a couple of real dinky ones in here. The smallest ones, oops, there's already a amethyst crystal there. Can't tell if it's the drop of glue or the an amethyst crystal there. It's kind of shiny. Yeah, these little ones are tough. Okay, there we go. Flip them over so you can grab it with the picker. I think my glue dried right there. All right, let me put it on this one. Okay. All right, did I get... there's one more piece of glue right there. I mean, you don't have to hit every single thing. The glue in itself is kind of shiny. But the crystals, much shinier. Okay, so let's see this right here. All right. So, there we go. Look how twinkly that is. It's an unconventional Christmas card, yeah. You know, just from the color scheme. But, I don't know, it fits in the spirit of it, I think. And I'm going to let these crystals kind of set up and dry, that glue, because sometimes when I start formatting this into a card, I'm putting photo stickers on the back of this, and I'm gluing this down, then, my crystals fall off. So we'll let this set up here. And also we'll see if we can do some sort of little quote down here. I've got a little scraps of my foil. I keep all these little scraps of foil like this, that I've cut from doing things like these squares and stuff for the ornaments. But these make great quote pieces. So this is this color right here. I don't know. You can do a like quote stamp down here in the same color, or you can do it maybe silver would be kind of interesting. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But let's wait for this to dry. And I could heat set, but I'm just going to let this air dry. And we'll give some of these inks, if they're not dry, a little bit more chance to set up a little bit more. All right. So we'll finish that off then. All right, I'm back, and I have formatted this in terms of the perimeter here. We have a triple, I don't know, whatever, mounting the white to bring out the white elements in here, silver to bring out those kind of clear crystals that look more silver in appearance. And then I thought I'd contain it. It looked fine with just the silver border, but I contained it with this dark glossy cardstock. It's navy blue, but it looks black. It even looks black in person, really, but I don't have black, so I use that. All right, now here's what I'm going to do. This piece is going to fit right here in the corner. All right, now here's my thought. This is the way I think. Okay, I'm going to try it in Starlight Silver, because I just don't think it's going to show up enough if I do it in white. Okay, it would kind of look more like this really translucent tree here. But I think silver would be fine on this piece because we have this chrome perimeter here, and then we also have the, those little clear crystals in here that reflect kind of a silvery type of touch. If this were the only thing that was done in silver in here, I think it would look kind of out of place. It would just stand out too much in terms of a reflective metallic. But we have these things running in here already, so I think it would look fine. Okay, now here's the other thing too. If it doesn't stamp out well, if I don't get a good impression, because I already have all this white down here, the white is a little bit raised, then I can always do it on, a piece of scrap like this. you know, and stamp something out, and I would just put it down here in terms of a little, whatever, word, embellishment, I don't know what you call it. And it would just be in a kind of a framed piece, but if I can get it in the impression itself direct, then all the better, because then I won't have to do some extra work, and I think it would incorporate in really well with this. Now my silver pad right here, I think these silver, the metallics are a lot more opaque than white, and I mean, that really makes sense. I mean, my white pad's not like a bleed-proof white pad or something like that, so when you stamp out white on something like this, I'm talking about bleed-proof white is opaque, but the impressions in Moonlight White, you're going to be able to see through them somewhat. You know, you might be able to get a really, you know, pretty solid impression at times, but most of the times if you're doing it over a darker foundation, you're going to be able to see right through it. I tend to think that's fine. I would like a pad one day to be very, very opaque, but I don't think that's going to happen at this point in time. Most of the development, I think, in the stamping world is, you know, already happened. I don't know if there's a lot of R&D going on out there these days, research and development. Okay, so I'm just eyeballing this. I can see through my block somewhat. And I'm just hoping that this stamps out reasonably straight. And if it doesn't, then we have other attempts that we can do. Or not other attempts, but other solutions, okay? So, holding this down a little bit, allowing that ink to transfer, and hopefully get a good transfer of that silver, you know, or most of the silver that was on the stamp. But again, this is a non-porous surface, but it gets a little bit more porous when you lay down these extra layers of media on top, and then the media dries, and that becomes, you know, that media is somewhat porous, you know, not the foil. Okay, that looks okay. My P is a little bit skewed, but I find that to be acceptable. And it fisheyes a little bit when you're doing it on something like this, okay? Meaning, see that there's little areas in there where, you know, it doesn't transfer terribly well, okay? But that's good enough for me. See, it stands out a little bit more like that. And you get that aspect of the, you know, the reflective aspect of silver. So it looks a little bit darker, and then it really stands out this way, okay? But look at that right there. Just the different looks of all this. Look at that, those trees up there, how kind of invisible, you know, how, I don't know, reversed they are. It looks like there was a real clean removal of that ink in there, but when you look at it like that, you can just see how translucent it is. But that's the beauty of foil. It really, there's a real different personality to the foils in regards to how they look when light is reflecting off of them. Okay, let me see. Putting back my piece. I almost touched that. And I'm sure smeared it. Okay, now let's go back. It's been a few hours here already, but I forgot about the star. I was going to work on that star a little bit. It's a little bit harsh, so I'm going to take... Okay, I need a new Q-tip here. I'm going to fray this quite a bit. All right. I'm going to loosen it. I don't pull it or anything like that. You just want a kind of a soft ball, okay? But you don't want it all straggly with hairs sticking out everywhere, okay? So you go like that, all right? It has to be 100% cotton. Those acrylic ones are quite useless for this application, okay? We're getting some ink on this. And so then the white, and then we're going to smash that out like this and get it nice and flat and also fairly dry, okay? Let me show you how much is on here, okay? So I'll go like this. Ooh, that's too much. See, it's a little blobby like that. Still too much, okay? I can tap it lighter, but there's still too much on there. Okay, so, okay, let me really smash this down. I really want some of that ink. I didn't know my pad was so juicy right around in there, okay? All right. And getting there. See how that's a little bit more translucent, see-through? All right, now, beauty of foil, you do that stuff. What I was always saying, don't worry about it, because you can always just wipe it right off, when it comes to... It's the most forgiving surface that we can possibly stamp on. Stamp boards like that, too, because you can sand off what you have. But this one, you can just wipe it off with a paper towel. Okay, now I'm going to give that star a nice glow. Okay, but I don't want it to be a real harsh, heavy glow. I still want it to look nice and twinkly. So I'm going to just lightly dab this. So you can't see anything I've done so far with this, okay? So I just keep doing it. See, I've removed a lot of the ink. This is the kind of the technique that makes it so easy, but people aren't comfortable with going like this, tapping something out 20 times, and for it to barely show. You see that little glow I'm working on right there? People want that instantly, okay? So they go like this into this pad and go like this and get that big blob there, okay? But this is exactly what makes it so easy. Okay, now I'm taking some more ink right here, okay? Because I want the center to be a little bit lighter so that there's transition from lighter to darker, okay? So, okay, now let's blot this up a couple times here. And let's just hit it in the center, okay? And look at that star really start to glow for me. Okay? Now that's going to dry darker than what it looks like right there, but that's about right. See that nice glow that we have going there? I mean, it still stands out, but, it's a little bit more mellow than my harsh, edges in there, my harsh angles, okay? Now, with that being done like that, let's bring some of that kind of glowing aspect to some of these other stars in here, okay? Just take it real slow. So that's like 10 taps right there, and we get that glowing star right there, okay? But so you do that, now that thing won't stand out quite so much. It stands out in terms of size, and you got those points on there, but it's not standing out from a textural standpoint. It blends in, but it's still the star of the show because of the size. Okay, so I'm going over some of these. All right, so that kind of coming around. Look at that. See these? Okay. I'll do some of these that are in front of the trees as well. I'm trying to make this one really dim like that. Just a couple taps right there. Okay, and I think that should do it. Just, except for the heat setting and spray sealing on this. I think that looks about right, okay? Let's take a look at this. All right. Yeah, you can see, I don't know, what are your favorite little things on here? Aspect of it, qualities. That looks really cool. See, I like that right in there. I like the transition between that and that. Look at all those crystals that you can really see on here. And then when you go like that, they kind of twinkle like that. See that? And those purple ones are pretty good. Look at that. See that right there, there, and there. And there's a couple other ones too, but look at that. See that? Looks like Cassiopeia. It's a W right here almost, huh? All right, I think that looks pretty cool. The real translucent trees without the, real crisp reverse impression. I think they look pretty good. They look like they're back in the mist or something like that. Normally what I do is I make those little vignettes. If you're a viewer of this channel, you know what I do called tipping the edges and making the edges real dark. Well, you don't have to do that. You're just creating the light in here. So if you don't put it everywhere, then you have this natural vignetting, which contains the scene like that, or whatever images you have in the car. Look at that piece right there. It looks like ease. You go like that. Not that that's a good thing. It'd be better if that piece standed out a little bit better in this lighting right here, but I didn't have to cut out an extra thing right there, and it's done in the foil, so I think it looks fine. All right, so anyways, hope you enjoyed this piece right here. I think it's fairly elegant, and it is, it is on, bluish, purplish toned foil, but I think it works really well for a Christmas card, winter scene, or whatnot. All right. So if you have any questions, drop me a note in the comment section. Hope you like, share, and subscribe. Usual stuff. Thanks as always for tuning into the channel. And we'll see you on the next card.